Hi, I'm Sophia, and I'm going to be talking about Rampton and I's paper, which deals with a legitimacy comparison of China's Belt and Road Initiative and EU's Global Gateway. Our paper deals with the change in foreign policy experience since 2013, where a clear break with Tao Guang Yang Hui, or the lying low rhetoric under Deng Xiaoping, is transformed into Waijiao Xinjiang, Xi Jinping's new diplomacy, as we've also seen in class. At the same time that during this period is when the CCP established new channels to reach recipients of aid and development projects in ways better suited to their own interest. And the more important way this has materialized is with the BRI. So what we're going to look at is the response, the strong international response that the BRI has incited, particularly with the EU's Global Gateway, as well as the US's Build Back Better World. But for the purpose of our paper and this presentation, we're going to focus on the Global Gateway. We're going to have a look at their official objectives, and we're going to have a look at their actual track record and our legitimacy concerns, which are crucial for sustainability of projects like these, and make a comparison between the two. So as we see with the Belt and Road Initiative, starting off in 2013, we have a 4 to 8 trillion US dollar investment volume. And the official objectives are policy coordination, facility connectivity, unimpeded trade, financial integration, and people-to-people bonds. The last one is arguably the most loosely defined priority. And we're going to have a look now at their actual track record of investment. Here we see a pie chart that shows the distribution of investments by sector. And as you can see, over 80% of the investments are in metals, energy, and transportation. The more human development oriented sectors like health barely even figure, a tiny sliver, 0.08%. This seems to be at odds with the own goals set out by the BRI. The countries that have received this investment is 138. They are mostly low-income countries with low stability, low democratic standards, and less likely to have security ties to the West, as we can see here in this Brookings Institute analysis, where we see that the lower middle income portion of the BRI is much higher than non-BRI, as well as lower democracy index, which indicates less democracy than in the non-BRI countries, as well as a higher political stability score, which actually counterintuitively indicates less political stability. So far, this hasn't gone so well. There's been backlash everywhere, from the Philippines to Kazakhstan, and most notably in Sri Lanka, a case that we've already discussed in class. And the reason for this, what it looks like, significant number of protests, increased anti-Chinese sentiments in polls, and increased political debates, which have often led to not just the revision, but also cancellation of BRI projects. And the critiques are centered around low environmental standards. So there's no mention made of the Paris agreements to which China agreed. There's missing cooperation with domestic businesses, exclusion of domestic labor force. This is a huge grievance of a lot of these protesters. Democratic standards domestically, and security threat perceptions of people afraid of encroachment. And this also relates to dependency due to high debt grievances, where a narrative might be formed where there's a loss of national sovereignty due to these predatory lending contracts, not just financially, but also in territory, as was seen in Iran, as well as in Sri Lanka and elsewhere. The Global Gateway was announced in 2021 as a direct response to the BRI. So although we can't really look at a track record, we can see, we can compare that there's a much lower investment volume with 300 billion euros until 2027. But there's also the added benefit of a strong cooperation with the US and G7's own investment initiatives in response to this project. The planned sectors for investments are digital, climate and energy, transport, health, education, and research. And when we look at a legitimacy criteria created from the grievances that the BRI attracted, interestingly, the Global Gateway has explicitly and transparently listed in their investment criterias factors that address directly these legitimacy concerns. So there is a Paris Agreement standard. There is an individual security protection where surveillance and projects that would encroach on privacy or individual privacies are not to be funded. Equal partnerships with local governments and um, fairer interest rates. All of these things are already built into the system. Whether or not this means that necessarily they will deliver on all of these criteria is yet to be seen. But at least we can see that from the beginning, there's a much greater responsiveness to legitimacy standards than we see in China's Belt and Road, where there's with the BRI, there's some short-term benefits in terms of speed of implementation and efficiency, but they suffer in long term through this lack of legitimacy. So in the future, we can look into EU's funding patterns, which should be monitored over time. But for now, only official statements and past investment habits are what we are going to consider in terms of a comparison side by side. Thank you.